What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It is First and Ted time with my host, Ted Hazelrig, talking 49ers, talking 49ers v. Lions, talking a lot of stuff. There's a lot of 49ers news to get to, a lot of drama when it comes to Brock Purdy and this team. Who knows? Maybe they'll use it as some motivation going into this weekend's game. But real quick, though, I want to ask you how you're doing, Ted.
Can't complain. It's a happy hump day. Got some money together to maybe be able to buy a dirt jumper bike to go ride with my son on the pump tracks.
Nice.
Now it's just figuring out when the home boss will let me go pick one up. I thought I was going to do one tomorrow morning. Got vetoed. Tried for Saturday, vetoed. Maybe next week. We'll see. I don't know.
No, just be persistent, but not too persistent. Maybe instead of bringing it up every day, bring it up every other day. Keep her on her toes.
Like
it's funny that you have the Brock Purdy jersey on. Everybody knows the Brock Purdy. Just your side of how you felt about things, hyperbole, all that stuff. But it's almost this. We're into playoff time here. We're into January, almost February, and the national media has really took into hating on this kid. A lot of players, and Brandon Ayuk, Debo, defending their guy. We talked about it right before we started about how certain people in the media say they do it for clicks, like they know what they're doing and they're doing it for that. Is it fair that the slander that this kid is getting as far as how much the media is talking about him in a negative light, kind of making him like the forgotten player, just taking like subtle shots. Everybody, we're talking Ryan Clark, Nick Wright. I'm trying to think of another name, but it's everyone. And I thought it was awesome that people like Pat McAfee came to his defense. I thought that was great. He really went off on some people. But what's your overall take on the Purdy slander?
Yeah, we got some quarterbacks who like him: Kurt Warner, Matt Leinart, Steve Young. I think that should count for something more than maybe the regular talking heads. But I've disagreed with Steve Young in the past as well. So nobody's perfect, or nobody's the end all be all opinion that's going to trump my opinion. I'm going to make it based off a lot of different opinions, including my own, the eye test. So I think some of it is like stuff I was saying during the off season about him, comparisons with Jimmy G. I really stopped doing it this season because to me this season there was no comparison between Brock Purdy and what Jimmy G did here. You do see that Jimmy G fell on his face when he left. And I do think Brock would struggle leaving the 49ers unless he was going to a really loaded team like the team we're playing this weekend. The Lions are really loaded on offense. The Packers have a really great running back in Aaron Jones and some good young weapons. There's like the Eagles are one of the cushiest gigs because of their O-line, their weapons. Swift is a really good running back. So I can kind of see where some of it comes from. But yeah, some of it is just like, I'm going to argue this side, you argue that side in these talk shows now, where it has nothing to do with what they really think. It's just like one takes one side and one takes the other. Now, Nick Wright has stuck with it. He's been steadfast. But we like to call him Nick Wrong. I don't hold him in too high of opinion. The one thing I'll say is, I'm going to take my flowers for saying that Purdy was a fair weather quarterback. I felt like we really waved the white flag on that when he came out wearing a glove early in the game. It's just crazy that ever since I started saying it after the Cleveland Browns game, this is the first real rain game we've had since then.
See, when you said fair weather, I was like, but no, you're right.
Not like a fair weather fan who's only
No, you're right. And you know something, Ted? I was going to fight that narrative until I saw how he struggled with the rain. He does. And what's funny, though, is, and I made this point a million times, and I hate to cut you off, Troy Aikman has massive hands, right? Like some of the biggest hands you've ever seen. If you watch him do commentary, I mean, his fingers are like, this long,
Yeah.
He couldn't grip a wet ball either, which makes no sense. So it is something that some quarterbacks deal with just depending on their grip and how they hold the ball. And it was definitely apparent.
I think it has to do some with palm to finger ratio. If you have a really big palm, it doesn't help very much compared to if you have really long fingers. Because, well, let's see, because, you know,
I have kind of a big palm.
Has the exact same 9 1/4 inch hands, at least overall measurements, as Brock Purdy.
Who's that?
The good news is Jared Goff has 9-inch hands. And so I was talking with some Lions creators. I've talked to 3 so far this week. Another one, at least one more coming on tomorrow. And they're basically saying he's not very good at even throwing deep balls, even when it's dry. He doesn't throw a good spiral. And anything over like 20, 25 yards, it's kind of a crapshoot for him. I'd say at least Purdy hits 40 plus pretty regularly. I feel like he had at least 3 or 4 40 plus this year that were pretty impressive to me.
I think a lot of the hate just has to do, like we've talked about a million times, you know, he was drafted where he was drafted. He looks the way he looks. And all these other quarterbacks that are in the playoffs are phenomenal, athletes outside of just throwing the football. And Brock doesn't really have that. I mean, he can move around. He reminds me of Montana as far as his manipulation of the pocket. Not a runner per se, but a scrambler. He's always going to get that thing. And talking to Jared, my brother, before the stream, and he's like, you know how you get rid of everything, Aaron? You win. Just win. All the talk, you know what? At the end of the day, even if they win the Super Bowl and they want to take shots at him, I really don't care because they get the ring. You know what I mean? His teammates have stood up for him. I think a lot of them just are just like at this thing where like they're just, why is there so much with him? Like, why is it an obsession of the media? You know, like what's the end goal of the constant criticism? Like, he can't have a bad game. He can't struggle. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen that much put on every single game. Like, oh, he has a great game. You know, the media says something like he might be one of the best, and then he has another bad game, and then they're talking about I forgot who the guy was, but he says then the Niners have to look to maybe get a change at quarterback to get an athlete or something behind that, an elite level guy after this season. And it was just like, it's all over the place. I personally, I watched him in this past game. I thought he struggled quite a bit. I wonder how much is the weather. The weather did play a factor. Also, the pass protection at times on some of his throws where he got guys around him and in his face on some throws. You know, some things were constricted a little bit. So overall, I mean, I was upset a little bit. I was like, put an effing glove on. I was screaming at the TV. I was pretty hot. That game made me mad, and it wasn't just Brock Purdy. I have a lot of stuff to say about other parts of the team too.
Yeah, me too.
And
here's the thing about the glove. Here's the thing about the glove. Definitely gives you better grip on the ball. And when he had it, he threw like a really nice spiral. It had a lot of zip on it. Looked better, like just in a vacuum than his other passes during the game. Problem was, you can grip it, but I don't think you can ungrip the ball well when you're wearing that glove. In other words, on your release, I think you tend to hook it or whatever. And like, that's why it went straight into the breadbasket of the defender, which you almost never see. That's something Jimmy Garoppolo would do a lot more than you see Purdy do. So, I mean, I think if you could practice with it, with a wet ball and the glove, you'd probably get better with it. But, people were talking this week about how Kyle doesn't believe in that. He made some comment like, practicing with the wet ball, that's not what real football guys do, and I'm a real football guy, and it's just like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like, if you're gonna play in the rain on the weekend, practice in the rain during the week, man. Come on, that's just common sense to me. But sometimes common sense isn't all that common.
Yeah, there's definitely a like I said, I got a lot of blame to throw around. Even though we won, people are like, why are you gonna throw blame around? Trust me, man. When I watched that game at the end, I was not satisfied. I have a lot of.
Did you feel like we were going to win in the third quarter?
No,
me neither.
I thought we choked away the season.
Did you wake up Sunday morning going, how the hell do we win that thing?
Yes.
I heard Shasky say it on the radio. He said things I said, skin of our teeth. Woke up the next morning, how the hell do we win it? I'm like, oh, Joe, we are like, you're right. And get out of my head.
It's funny that you said that because he tweeted so much stuff from the middle of that game till the end of it till days after. And I tweeted Shasky, and he responded. I said, Shasky, get out of my head. Because everything he's tweeting is all the stuff. And it wasn't just Purdy. It was defense, special teams, Kyle. I mean, everybody had a piece of the blame pie. I have never felt this uneasy going into a conference championship game with essentially a pretty loaded, healthy team. And we'll get to that in a second. I want to say hi to the chat real quick. We got a better half in here. If I can click on her name. Where is she? Jupiter Size. She says, hello, Aaron and Ted. What up, 49ers fam? Jimmy Perez in the house. Thank you so much for coming through. We got the one, the only illustrious Red Jet Shell. Thank you for coming through. She says she's watching on both channels. And she says like and subscribe. Thank you very, very much.
That's right.
We have one of my fellow Niner co-hosts on Monday from Niners Coast to Coast, David McNiner. Let's see who else we got here. We got a lot of Jupiter talking in the chat, which is cool. Me and her were talking about how close her score prediction was. She said 24-22, and we won 24-21.
Wow.
So way to go, Jupes. She was close. She was close. I remember she texted me right at the end of the game, 24-21. Almost like Jupster. Yeah, exactly. Peter Lee, Ryan Clark, Keyshawn Johnson, Greg Jennings, Joy Taylor, Nick Wright, Dominique Foxworth, Jeff Saturday, Mike Greenberg. Thank you. Glad Louis Riddick went on an epic shouting rant to defend Purdy. It's just it's getting stupid now. He's getting so much unfair criticism. It's not even funny. You can say the obvious stuff about him and what he doesn't have and what he lacks, but in the end of the day, like, I mean, you also gotta give him credit too for the things that he accomplished, the amount of, the statistical things that he did this year.
Game-winning drive.
Huh? And he had his game-winning drive in the playoffs so far. So that, that was something that Ted wanted to see.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to see myself too. Could they nut up and go get a touchdown late in the game to, people could say, oh, McCaffrey, he could probably throw one in too. So
we had one against Cleveland too, but Moody effed it up. So
yeah, Moody effed it up. So, I mean, we got to remember how young he is still.
Yep.
We got to remember how young he is. This isn't the end of the road for this kid. Somebody made a great point about having really good regular seasons and choking in the playoffs. They're like, didn't Peyton Manning do that too?
Absolutely.
Didn't Peyton Manning isn't Peyton considered top 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time? And didn't he choke a ton in the postseason?
Sort of, but it's not really a choke when your defense sucks.
Yeah, but they were loaded on offense. They were loaded.
But
when you're 2 good receivers, he had a Hall of Fame running back.
Yeah.
And a tight end and 2 good receivers. So
I get it. No, they were the last ones to go like 4,000 yards for the skill positions like we did this year. That was the 2006 Colts.
Randy Elite Daytona in the house. What is going on?
What's up, Randy?
Who else we got in here? That's pretty much it so far with the chat.
But that's why I don't hold Peyton Manning as accountable, because he's going up against Brady, great O-line, great defense, great special teams, like a much more balanced team in the Patriots. And obviously, up against the refs too when you play Brady, so there's that.
I'm looking at the chat on Instagram real quick. I got one of my buddies from work. His name is James. James is a big 49ers fan. He says, gotta leave quick, but he wanted to say contain Gibbs and put pressure on Goff, and we will win this game. I mean, yeah. I mean, we can get into all the other
easier said than done, but yeah.
Let's kind of kick it over to a little bit of what the national media or the national perception right now is. The Niners are the enemy.
Yes,
and the Lions. And the Lions are the America's favorite.
I had this guy Ash on earlier from something in the Lions UK, and he's from Nottingham, and so he was saying we were the sheriff of Nottingham, and they were Red Riding, Robin Hood, not Red Riding Hood. But that they were going to try and steal from the rich, which is us, and go to the Super Bowl for the first time ever because the Lions have never made it.
They've
I was
never
thinking
been.
they'd never made it to an NFC Championship game, but I guess they did in the early '90s. I forgot about that. So,
yeah, they're America's team right now. No, everybody wants to see them beat us. Well, no, the 49ers, for some reason, you know, everybody hates them, even though they're kind of like a team that's pretty good, goody two shoes. You know, there's not a lot of controversy that surrounds the Niners. They just have really good players. And apparently nobody cares. They want to see the Lions win. I get it. There's going to be a lot of angry Bills fans this week, probably hating on the 49ers because I know a lot of them. And I remember when the Niners lost in the conference championship game last year, a lot of salty Bills fans were like, screw the Niners, man. I hate those guys. So I'm sure they're waiting to see our downfall. In a way, it's kind of what the Niners want, right? They kind of want to be the hated guy, the enemy, the team that is getting kind of looked over. I mean, they're getting a lot of bulletin board material. I don't know if you watched the press conference today with Ayuk. He seemed increasingly irritated just talking, like he didn't want to talk about stuff. And that's exactly how I want these guys to be.
and
they haven't
expect Ayuk to have a big game.
Yeah.
The top receivers against this Detroit Lions defense have averaged like 150 yards a game over the last 4 games. Now, granted, these are some pretty outstanding receivers. You got Justin Jefferson once or twice, CeeDee Lamb in there, Puka Nacua. So it's not like just, Tom, Dick, and Harry and they're playing receiver against
You stole that one from my dad, Tom, Dick, and Harry. It was like Tom, Dick, and Harry and everybody and their Aunt Fanny. Like if you're somewhere,
I don't
like
think I've heard that one.
Yeah, like you go to grocery shop on like a Saturday, and my dad would say everybody and their Aunt Fanny's out. Like just. So you guys must have been from the same school. I mean, even though he was a good 18 years maybe older than you, in life, but I don't know.
I'm kind of old for my age, I guess.
You're an old soul.
I'm pretty old straight up. So
me too. I'm getting there. Trying to grow my beard out, make me look like a distinguished gentleman. Yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't. I like it. Gives them motivation. It gives me motivation as a fan. Just if the Niners win the championship game, just pretty much tell people to go stick it. You know what I mean? You wanted the Lions to be this team of destiny, and then you ran into the 49ers. So like I said, I want to talk about a lot of the stuff that pissed me off during the game. Let's talk first about the D-line. Where have they been? Run game, pass rush, pretty non-existent, pretty underproductive. Like, what's going on, man? We got we have Nick Bosa and Hargrave and Gregory and Chase Young and Eric Armstead and all these guys, and it hasn't been that great. What were your thoughts about the team watching them just get kind of ran over in that game? I mean, they were getting a lot of push on that offensive line of the Packers and getting some good chunks of yardage. What was your take?
Yeah, I mean, they have a real good offensive line. I pointed that out in my preview article that they're 8th ranked O-line and we're like 15th ranked. So they had a distinct advantage on O-line. I think it took us a long time to get our cleats right on defense. To get to switch over to the screw ends that give more traction, that also slow you down. But who cares if you're a little slower, if you're not slipping in and up with your keister on the grass. I think our D-line is overpaid and overrated. I've kind of been saying it about Chase Young, but I said a lot about Hargrave and Armstead are both half tackles. Armstead is stud versus the run, but can't pass rush very well. And Hargrave is a stud pass rusher who can't defend the run very well. And Bosa has been, contract holdout Bosa this year. It has not been like 2021 or 2022, especially not like 2022. So maybe they'll have a little resurgence this week, but until then, I'm calling them overpaid and overrated.
100%. I want to change topics for a second, and then we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
Peter Lee says, breaking news, Jim Harbaugh has officially accepted the LA Chargers head coaching position.
Well, at least it wasn't the Seahawks.
Yes, exactly. He's going to stay in the ASC.
Yeah.
And Red Chat says, "Welcome back to the NFL, Jimbo."
Did the Harbaughs grow up? Did they have any San Diego? Oh, I mean, he coached San Diego State before Stanford.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
what's
knew there
going
was
on,
some San
Shasho?
Diego connection there for him.
So, okay, we'll get back. Thank you for the update on Harbaugh. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just, I hate when I'm listening to people talk about, the Niners defense, they needed a wake up call. They needed a wake up call. This will get them playing this Sunday. Like, how many wake up calls do you need all season to, increase your effort? And the one thing I've noticed too is I don't see a lot of multiple fronts. I feel like they do the same thing every time. 4 down linemen and cover. 4 down linemen and cover. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like their defense is so predictable that essentially if you block them up front, you're playing zone behind it. Guys are always open, right? And did all this talk about, having to have a wake up call or, this is what they needed. They needed a shot in the arm, a game they almost lost. Like, if you can't get motivated, like Bill Parcells said this late in the year, like you need to be in a different profession. I've been increasingly angry. It both like how do you have two ends like them and defensive tackles like we have and they don't get any pressure. Kinlaw's been a major disappointment this year on the defensive line. I thought they played one of their worst games as a defensive line, and I don't care what PFF says about pressures and this, that, or the other. I'm watching with my eyes and my heart and my perceptive powers, and they look like a team that was on skates. And people are like, "Oh, it's raining." I'm like, "Yeah, the other team was playing in the rain too, so that's not an excuse either."
Yeah. There's some scary stuff, not the least of which was Ambry Thomas.
Oh God, Ambry Thomas. I've been pretty high in him all year, but I've always had this thing in at the back of my mind. Like eventually he's going to remember who he is, right? And so will the league. Figures it happens in the playoffs.
And I'll make a little excuse for him. I will say, he had the hand surgery and that was his first game back. So he's maybe a little rusty and maybe his hand isn't 100% after just having surgery. But I hope he really turns it around against the Lions because those 3 massive plays going against him were unforgivable if we had lost.
There is, to me, in order for us to beat the Detroit Lions, our defense has to outplay the offense all game. I think the offense for the majority of the second half of the year, maybe most of the year, you can agree, they've outplayed the defense. This defense hasn't been the same defense under Wilks. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I think the offense was starting to look pretty good. I think the offense will look a lot better now that it's supposed to be dry again this weekend. The Detroit boundary corners are no good. It's Sutton and I forget the other guy's name, but the corners are who we can attack at least. So offense should look a little better, assuming that Debo's back. And I will say that even if it's a Kindle Vildor is their other corner across from Cam Sutton, and they got him off the practice squad about 5 weeks ago. So, and as far as Debo, if he doesn't play, I think it'll hurt a lot less this week because we've had a whole week to practice without him compared to in the Packers game. We practiced for 2 weeks with him, and then all of a sudden he's out and nobody knows what to do to take his place because nobody had gotten those reps during practice. And it sounded like from what Kittle said that he was supposed to be the whole plan of attack was to run through Debo the whole game mostly. Yeah, I mean, there's some scary stuff about the Lions defense though, besides the corners. CJ Gardner-Johnson's really good. They have underrated linebackers. Aiden Hutchinson is playing like one of the best edges in the last 4 games. And this Aleem McNeil guy they have in the middle is kind of a monster in the middle. And then they have this guy named Houston, not the one we all wanted, the kind of semi-washed guy.
That
but
one? No.
Justin Houston, I think was his name.
Yeah.
This guy's name is James Houston. Close. It's another J Houston, but it's James Houston. And he was in Hutchinson's draft class, and he was the bookend. And apparently, at one point in 2022, I guess it was last year, he had 8 sacks in 7 games, including a real show-out game against the Bills. And that's one thing they really need is a bookend. Problem is for them is he broke his ankle, sprained his ankle. He got the high wire surgery to sort of tie his tibia and fibula together to avoid more high ankle sprains. But apparently that makes him so he can only pass rush from his right, which would be against Trent Williams. So that'll be easier said than done. And he was cleared to play against the Bucs, but they didn't think he was ready. So it's not clear that even though he's cleared, that he'll be clearly play.
Before I move to the offense, the Niners don't take care of business. They don't win a Super Bowl. Wilks isn't coming back for another season, is he?
I think someone will hire him as a head coach.
Yeah. I haven't been impressed with them all year. They haven't been the same team. They have a lot of I said this during the championship game. I said the Niners have a lot of great players, but they're not playing great together. Like talent-wise, you look at the Niners roster and it's stud after stud after stud, right? But as a collective unit, defensively, and I'm not even really going to get on the defensive backs because I think a lot of the problems that some of the DBs had is because of there's no pass rush. I just, for the amount of money that is invested into that defensive line, to put out that pathetic showing against the Green Bay Packers on both the run defense and the pass rush, they deserve just as much blame you want to throw around for Brock Purdy having a bad game, if not more, because Purdy ain't paid like these guys are paid. Purdy's, doesn't even make $1 million. He's last pick in the draft. He's not expected to do any of this, while these guys are stealing money hand over fist, and the effort doesn't seem there all the time, and the production hasn't been there at least the second half of this season. So to me, like I said, there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but not in a good way. Let's switch over to the offense. And let's talk about Deebo possibly not going. If you listen to a couple people, Ayuk seems to think that he's going to give it a go. Shanahan hasn't really said yes or no. He says he's not doing well right now. He's hurting, but he thinks that there's a good chance that he could play. I asked my brother, I said, Deebo might not go. And he's like, why? I was like, well, his shoulder hurts. He's like, it's the NFC Championship game. I said, I know, but he's like, but it's the NFC Championship game. I'm like, I get that. I was like, but you can't shoot you up a Toradol like they used to. He just thinks that Deebo needs to play through pain and go out there and produce. That's what my brother said.
So I'm with your brother.
And I did too. Yeah, last week's game. I was the same way. I was like, really, dude? Like, first they were like concussion, then cleared, then shoulder, questionable, out. And I'm like, you're not going to play the rest of the game? Really? So, yeah, I was a little bit of the unfeeling, unintelligent fan who thinks that players are nothing more than just pieces on a chessboard. But I feel the same way. Is that how you really feel about Deebo? You think he needs to get his ass out there?
I mean, I think he will. I think he'll play. I think Kyle's just playing games and trying to get the Lions to game plan as much as possible for what it would look like without Deebo, so that they have less reps to game plan what it'll look like with Deebo, which is what I do think will happen. So I think he'll play.
So Randy Daytona says, you guys should switch off. The dual streaming separates fans. Not cool, Zeus. I don't know. Maybe next year we'll try it. We're kind of deep into it right now, but we'll see. I don't know, Ted. I just,
yeah, I think next season.
I don't know. We'll see if I'm still doing this. If both of us are still doing this next season.
I think you just gave yourself away.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be back.
I had a feeling. I was hoping. No pressure, though.
Yeah, so we were talking about Debo, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You know who's really? Let's talk about another wide receiver on this team that I don't think we realized how important he was until we had him back last week, and that was Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
Major clutch catches in this game. How happy were you seeing him back on the field last week and that catch that he made where I thought he just throwing it up for grabs. I was so mad at that throw until I saw Juwan Jennings grasp it out of the air. What's your overall take?
Yeah, I mean, him and Armstead being out were both huge losses. They're both very physical guys. They're both, Juwan Jennings with the run blocking, Eric Armstead with the run stopping. They both help the guys around them immensely. So that's part of the reason why our run game is so good is Juwan Jennings. And, when people said, oh, that was lucky that he made that catch, it's like, well, you obviously didn't watch Juwan Jennings Tennessee highlights that we watched when he got drafted. And I remember tweeting a lot about him being a 50-50, leaping catch specialist because he had some game-winning catches like that, at least one game winner at Tennessee like that. And so it doesn't totally surprise me that he was able to sky and get that catch, and none of the defenders were anywhere near him. And, people saying, oh, that it was lucky because it was thrown into three defenders, but it was a zone. It wasn't like three guys.
It was a
there weren't three
throw.
Guys covering him. It was just three guys that happened to be nearby. I mean, they might've been trying to cover him once the ball was released, but by then it was too late. So, I love seeing him back. Didn't really care much for him on the jet sweep. I think that should be Ray. And I think if Debo is out, Ray's done a good job filling in for him. I mean, he's no Debo, let's be clear.
No.
But, he's about as close as we have. Or the other option would be like move CMC into Debo's position and let Elijah Mitchell take CMC's position. Like, come on, we got these other running backs. Like, let's use them, Kyle, please.
Yeah. You segued right into the next thing. Kyle Shanahan. He's another person that I had put blame on last week.
39 pass attempts.
39 pass attempts in the rain with the quarterback that doesn't have the biggest mitt, okay?
The most of his pro career. He has never thrown more pass attempts in the NFL than he did.
And Kyle decides, let's just keep doing that. You have... Why? He's
about to warm up, Aaron. He's about to warm up.
What's that?
He's about to warm up, so just keep feeding him. Keep feeding him.
Right. I thought you were saying that with Kyle. He's eventually, he's
warming up. No, I'm saying like I was pretending to be Kyle.
I think with Kyle, all the criticisms on Kyle are fair when it comes to choking, when it comes to his play calling in big games, when it comes to his, he's a really good X's and O's guys, but situational football, when it's not scripted, when it's not, like everything with the 49ers is so player based, like Debo has to be healthy and this guy has to play. And like you take one piece out of it and it unravels everything, right? Like how in the world did an offensive play get put in where you're the slowest guy in your team who runs a 4.7 40, 6'4", you're running a sweep? Really? Like how did that happen? You know what I mean? Like Kyle, for all the great that he does and all the tree of greatness that he has around him, all the guys that have worked with him that have been successful in other places, Kyle right now is in the Andy Reid before Patrick Mahomes place. Until he wins the Super Bowl, he will always be the coach that chokes, who his play calling is questionable. Like you said, why weren't we running the football? We have really three great running backs on our team. or
Yep.
two really good running backs and one, kind of a specialist. He's a quicker guy. Uh,
Offensive player of the year.
Yeah. He got offensive player of the year, and that's fine. But like, can we also intermix? Like, we didn't see any Elijah Mitchell in that game. He had one of his best games towards the end of the season. I'm like, there we go. There he is, just in time. Playoffs are coming. Elijah Mitchell's back to his old form. And what do? Nope. We're just going to use Christian McCaffrey the whole game. We're not going to. Kyle, I think Kyle gets tight, and he resorts to only using guys that he trusts. Just like when they draft people and you're like, oh man, he would be a real good ad. Maybe they should bring him off and it's like, no, Kyle's never going to allow that to happen. They just sit and they rot on the practice squad. And then, eventually they get their chance. But like, to me, he was really disappointing in the game. They say the team is a reflection of the coach. I 100% agree. And I know a lot of people are going to say like, man, you guys are bitching and moaning about the game and we won. Barely won. The Niners escaped, essentially. That was, you imagine that, you're the number one seed. You work so hard to get in the position that you are, and everything is laid out in front of you. And that's the effort that you come out with. Coaching, offense, defense. I'm not even talking about special teams.
Whew.
What in the hell was that? What's with the directional kicks, man? Kick him out of the end zone.
Isn't that why we got Moody?
Right. I thought he had a leg.
He does. No, he's under instructions to drop those inside the 5. So we could, maybe save 5 or 10 yards here and there while we give up 70, 80 on one. And then how about the fumble and then the guy recovers it in midair? Like, I thought we'd get it back.
Dude, that was what I thought the game was theirs. I was like, we lost.
Everything's bouncing their way.
Everything was bouncing their way. Dude literally fumbled. It was a great play by whoever came up behind him and popped that ball out. And it goes perfectly to the...
Probably George Odom, if I had to guess.
Might have been. I'm not sure.
He's our best special teamer. But I don't recall, honestly. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Let's talk about this. When Bashar brought it up. Danny Gray's career has been a waste. How many wasted running backs do we have on this team that Kyle has drafted and then we don't use? You know what I mean? Like,
common theme, all 3rd-round picks. It's a kiss of death in this organization.
49 Minus says, shout out to Technical Ted.
Oh, God. I'm the farthest thing from technical. But I guess I can have some technical analysis. Just
Randy Elite.
Don't let me work on your computers.
He says, we had 3 weeks off. I had to get no excuse, bro.
I do think there's a rust. There is
rust, but that so did the Ravens. Yeah, so were the Ravens. And look at their game.
They were rusty. It was close for a while. It looked like some people even made some comments. In fact, one guy who I don't really care for, who's a big guy, made a comment about how, Texans are taking it to the Ravens and they look shook. And I was just like, update, because clearly after that, the Ravens took over and pummeled them.
Yeah, the Ravens remembered who they were.
Yeah.
The Niners need to remember who they are in this game and go whoop their ass this Sunday.
I don't see it.
I think it's going to be a really close game.
Uh-huh. Because as good as the Packers O-line is, the Lions O-line is that much better.
They're hurting, though. They have some injuries.
Yeah, I mean, they have Jonah Jackson's out, and Frank Ragnow is playing hurt.
Frank Ragnow.
He always plays hurt. He always plays hurt. That guy's just a warrior.
We say that now, and then friggin' Niners D-line doesn't do jack that game.
No, I think we might get some pressure from the interior, from Armstead, Kinlaw, and Hargrave. I think maybe the key. Bosa against Sewell and their other tackle is going to be tough sledding for sure. The tackles are really good.
Why isn't Bosa being moved around, and why is there so many substitutions?
Good question.
Having a little bit of internet issue here, so if I'm freezing.
You're not free. You're just pixelating a little bit. I can still see and hear you. And then as far as Bosa, at least he didn't have any false starts or what you call it, encroachment, offsides against the Packers. He was getting pretty good at those for a while. What about safety? You think we're going to go with Logan Ryan again at safety, or you think we're going to pop Jair Brown back in there? I'm hoping it's Jair Brown. I think
Logan Ryan was a real liability in that last game.
Yep.
So if that's the case, you might as well put the rookie in, right?
I think so, because at least he can hit, and at least he's a ball hawk.
He's a ball hawk. He can tackle. He is a little bit sloppy in his approach to tackling. But I mean, it's kind of a poor man's Tylenol Hufanga. He's young and has some things in his game that needs to clean up. But yeah, I would put Jair Brown back in.
Yeah, it was DFF.
It was Demetrius Flanagan-Foles knocked the ball out.
He's a hell of a special teamer too.
Kyle already said Moody kicked the ball short. Oh, let's blame Moody then. Okay. Bashar said Aaron with the killer promo. So if you guys don't know, I do promo for the stream on TikTok, and you can adjust and change your voice to like a voice that sounds like, really raspy. It's a promo voice. And then so I use it, and Bash was like, how do you make your voice sound like that? I'm like, it's a filter. It's like a thing. So he thought it was pretty cool. So if you ever want to create a TikTok and create like a promo for your streams, you can change the voice, make yourself sound like, I don't know, some raspy national radio guy that makes it sound really good. So he said it sounded like a WWF promo. Awesome. Thank you.
Speaking of Moody, did you think, and do you have an opinion? I didn't really have an opinion on this, but Pedro from my Monday show said he felt like Moody's first kick that got blocked was going to miss if it wasn't blocked anyway.
Thought the same thing.
You did? Okay.
Yes. It was already like veering off to the left.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what he said too.
Which is funny because I saw another kicker doing this thing where almost like he was pivoting his body to kind of almost like he was aiming for the middle. It's hard to explain. I don't know whose team it was, but he was doing this thing with his hips where like he was kind of getting himself in the right angle as he comes off, as he comes up to kick the ball.
Or maybe there was a right to left wind and he was, accounting for that, adjusting for it.
Yeah. I guess we could.
Levi's is it's not a really tough place to kick, but it's not an easy place to kick.
No, there's definitely some wins there.
Robbie Gould, was an expert for sure at the wins at Levi's, and it's usually windy there.
I miss Robbie Gould in the playoffs, man. My anus was clenched tighter than a. I don't know. I can't think of anything. When that kick that he made, Moody, it didn't. I was like, watch him miss this.
Yeah,
I did. I'm sorry.
Yards. It was nice,
and it was a good kick. It was a really good kick. Usually his make it in by the scare, the hair of his, But no, that one was right down the middle. Yeah, I can't do that whistle.
There you go.
Bash thinks we need to blitz more. I don't know. Blitzing works. Maybe stunting. Maybe zone blitz where you really don't bring any extra. Maybe a 5-man line. Something, right? Mix it up.
Something.
Watch the game, and it's the same thing. It's 4 guys running, 4 guys running, 4 guys running. I'm going to tell you right now, Ted, I hate the wide 9. I hate it. Hate it. It's overhyped. Since in 2019, it worked really well, right? The wide 9, it was, D Ford, Bosa, Armstead, Buckner. It was amazing, right?
Yep. Now, even then, that we would get gashed up the middle when they would do duo blocking, where you got four O-linemen double teaming the 2 tackles and just spreading a massive hole up the gut. It's one of the weaknesses of the wide 9 for sure, because those guys on the outside just can't get there to help.
No.
Andrew Martinez asked where I got my Warriors light. Just Google Warriors. Try neon, or try, this might be LED. The one above the Niners one's neon. This might be LED, But I'll tell you, if you see the one like I got with the black there's like a little black ring around the outside. I think there's another one like by Fathead or somebody that looks a little cooler and a little brighter, and it doesn't have that edge on it. And I think it's a better deal, honestly. Might be a few bucks more, but I think you'll get a much better light. This was like, I don't know, $40, maybe. I think for 40 or 50, you can get the one where the clear plastic goes all the way to the edge, and I think it's got some cooler colors.
I have this one light that I want to use, but I can't until I get a real camera, like one of those photography cameras, like the ones with the lenses, because all you'll see is like the brightness of it. You won't be able to make out what it says.
Well, like
it's
the
really
SF and my SF Neon, the S and F are like blurred together. You can't even tell it's two letters.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Luckily, there's one right above and below and all around that you can tell.
Let's talk about something that is not necessarily game related, but it's 49ers related. I want to kind of move off the game stuff, and then we'll kind of go back into it. You know, we could talk about, you know, your kind of predictions or whatever, but I saw a report that Clint Kubiak and Brian Griese both got interviews. I forgot exactly where they were for, but the Niners, they could possibly lose Griese and Kubiak. Both their quarterback coaches could be out the door. It's been a rough off season that hasn't even started yet. You know, losing Adam Peters.
We have two Kubiaks, so we could definitely lose one and we'll still be okay.
We have Clint Kubiak
and Clay too, right?
Oh no, Clay's on another person's team, I think.
Did he move?
I'm not sure.
There was one point where we had two, and I tweeted like, "All your Kubiaks belong to us." You know, like that.
And what do you think about that? I think Brian Griese's been a really good quarterback coach.
Yeah, I would be sad to see him go, for sure. But yeah, I think he's getting OC offers. How could you not pass up?
So. Seems like anytime we have a good coach, it's like 1 year and gone, 1 year and gone. You know, with what happened with the New York Jets and what happened, I thought for sure maybe we could get Saleh come back and we can jettison off Wilkes. I have no personal issue with Wilkes, but I just don't. I don't know, man. It's like they don't even identity, and it's playoff time, and we still what are we? You know what I mean? This defense really did not impress me this year. I thought Steve Wilkes was the best man for the job in the offseason, considering his head coaching prowess and his work with defensive backs. Not impressed. So, you know, and then now with this Brian Griese and Kubiak thing, it's just like, man, the hits keep coming, and our season hasn't ended yet, and it shouldn't end until February. You know what I mean? So,
Bash has good sources.
He also has great guests too.
He says sources. Harbaugh accepts head coach with Chargers. So,
I think he's probably quoting the actual
real sources. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just joking around. In case it wasn't. Yeah, it was mentioned already, Bash. That's why I was kind of joking around with you.
Bash says they snag our coaches all the time. Nothing new, but it sucks. Yeah, it was already mentioned, unfortunately, the Jim Harbaugh thing. But you know, thank you for reiterating it just in case.
Like
I don't know what this means. Kyle Collins, how much Mahomes? I don't really know what that means. Sorry. How about did you see the little piece of news that the Niners have 11 draft picks this coming draft?
Sounds about right.
I think this is a draft where the Niners need to do a little bit of replenishing for the future. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think we need to trade all our thirds and trade up with them. No more third round picks because we've never hit on one besides Fred Warner.
That's it. What's your biggest draft need?
Tackle.
Okay.
Same as it ever was.
Okay.
Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Same as it ever was. Defensive end, same as it ever was.
Fair.
So this has been going on. Tight end too. I haven't wanted one of those.
Another wide receiver, maybe.
Another running back too. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah,
all
I looked
rookie.
at that, and I don't think we'll use all 11, but I don't think we'll trade much away. I just have a feeling the Niners, we're at that weird place right now, especially if we win the Super Bowl. You got to start to think about the future.
We might make
Um,
some trades
yeah,
for established players.
I can honestly say, if you asked me 6 weeks ago, who would I rather keep, I would have said Chase Young. That's not the case anymore. He can go once
He
the
can go.
playoffs are over. He can go. All
So
the talk
Ayuk,
about him and not having many pass rush moves or him taking plays off or him not being a real student of the game and just kind of being a one-trick pony, it's all been true. I was just hyped like everybody else was, like, we got a pass rusher, woo! But like you said, it was Montez Sweat was our initial target, and then Brian Burns. So we got the third guy, and it shows. So
yeah,
I say keep Ayuk. I don't know, draft up and grab somebody early.
because we're
Second
gonna
round.
lose Jennings, so
I
we need
really think Jennings needs to stay, but you're right.
we need a big-bodied, fast receiver, something like Conley but younger.
That was a nice catch, by the way, that Conley made on the sideline at the end of that game. Nice catch.
Remember, I
Nice throw
said
by
he should have
Brock,
made
too.
the 53-man roster. He had a great camp, Chris Conley. He was one of the best players in camp, along with Ayuk was the best. Kinlaw was way up there. Conley was way up there, and one more I won't mention for obvious reasons.
49er Minus says, TL just went on a Travis King rant, 49ers First Takes podcast. Don't get me started on Travis King. Oh, my God. Go away. Same ass song. The dude has like 18 edits of the same corny song. Sorry, guys. I'm not.
E40 collabed with him, Aaron. E40.
Rap. He's a legit rapper.
I know, but he collabed with Travis King recently.
And what was the song? It was still, no, 99 people ride with me. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Shoot me already. Corny Niner rap is just weird. I'm sorry. Football rap, like raps about players, is just corny. I sound like an old man.
It's one thing to sing about the Niners. It's another thing to have takes too. So like,
yeah. I've seen some of his takes. I'm just like, stick with the rapping. You guys could say I'm a hater. I really don't care.
Next thing you know, he's going to be in the comments. Aaron, I can't have you saying that about me, bro.
Who's that?
Travis King. He's going to be here.
He can come in the comments. See, I don't have the big channel like the other guys, so he doesn't know I exist. Kind of like most of YouTube doesn't. So
there's probably 10 people telling him right now, though.
Aaron's a big freaking meanie with his red hair. Andrew Martinez says, I agree. It's kind of corny. Yeah, like no attack on the guy personally. I just think it's just corny. I'm sorry. Corny Niners. Damn, Aaron, that's hate right there. That's right. 49er Minus says Travis did a completely new song with E40. It would have made more sense. Yeah, just repeating the same, like making a remix of a remix. It's just weird.
Shots fired.
Let's talk about news that came out last week about Trent Williams returning for the 2024 season. 1, do you believe it? And 2, should the Niners draft the tackle anyways in spring?
If we had lost to the Green Bay Packers, I'm not so sure I would have believed it. He was looking heated on the sideline and unhappy.
I felt his pain when he sat down. He was just kind of like out of breath.
Yeah. So no. I think he will. He wants to get this record, but that means once he's got that record, he gone. So we better start planning. We better start figuring it out. Somebody mentioned Tristan Wirfs. And
heard something about that.
Is he a free agent in 2024?
I'm not sure, dude. If they would have to, you'd have to make a move on that.
There's no way. They must have got his 5th-year option because that would be his fit. No, there's just no way. He's not available. You'd have to trade for him. There's no way the Bucs would ever let him walk. Let me just see.
I've heard something about that, to be honest with you.
Did they botch and not 4 years, 16 million? Here goes Spotrac. That's what I trust. Okay. 2024. No, he's under contract. 18 million base. 18 million cap hit, 19 million dead cap, and he gets paid 34 mil.
I think the Niners need to hella put a lot of investment in the draft into the offensive line. I'd like to see right tackle, not just left tackle, right tackle needs to be addressed. They probably won't, though. They'll probably go with Colton McKivitz again next year. He hasn't been too bad, but let's just say McGlinchey and him, to me, there's no real difference, which says more about McGlinchey than it does about McKivitz. McKivitz, you kind of expect certain things. McGlinchey, it's like, man, where they drafted him, he really sure has been a disappointment. So
I think they had the same pass blocking grade per PFF this year, but obviously run blocking McGlinchey's better. With Colton, I could see us extending him. Absolutely. Last I knew, he was on a 2-year, $4.5 million contract. So just 2.25 per year, which is crazy low for an O lineman because I think he was restricted when he signed it. So we would be smart. If we do want to keep him, we'd be smart to try and get him at a low rate for 3-4 years.
Peter Parker's he's not down.
I mean, I don't want him, but I also don't want to pay a lot more and get less, which you can easily do. Like,
yeah,
he's not terrible. Unless
the Niners have a known improvement that they could stick somewhere, you stay with the guy. You know what I mean?
And hope that he gets better, because he might. This is his first season starting as a right tackle. So
right. I wouldn't mind an improvement at center, although I think
Brendel's stuck in.
You think Brendel's going to stay there for a while? Aaron Banks has been pretty good this year, not gonna lie. I think Burford might move on. I have a feeling that what's his name's going to take his spot. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Feliciano's going to end up taking that spot. I think Burford moves on. It's not Buford, by the way, for the idiot that interviewed him during draft season a couple years ago. Spencer Buford. It's Burford. Clowns.
So Feliciano, just checking out, is 31. So he's definitely not the future. And he's not like a really athletic guy where you think he'll play a lot. I mean, the guy's, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, he could have a few good years left. There's no reason why not.
I just think he's better than Burford. Burford is a freaking holding penalty.
Way better. I said in my article last week, my preview article, I said, I hope we start Feliciano at right guard because he's been better than Burford. Like, Burford, I think we're trying to develop him and let him grow into his NFL man body and all that. And I see some value in that because he's cheap too. So I think he'll stick around in some capacity. But it's like now is not the time for development. Now is the time to make, because like he could have been the difference in that game Saturday. If Burford played, we probably would have lost the Green Bay Packers. I'll just say it. I'm firmly believe that.
I agree. Not a ton of other.
I also brought up the poise thing with Purdy again. You remember me talking about this quite a bit. Just that, we love Purdy's poise, but it also can scare us to death.
Yeah.
Another guy coming off the right edge again, unblocked, and Purdy had zero internal clock, zero, pocket awareness, and could have been creamed. He took a pretty big hit, but it wasn't a strip sack or an injury or anything, luckily. But
it's funny because you'll see him do some stuff and he'll change things and he's communicating. But you're right. I saw that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was fairly early in the game. And I was like, man, we just have not learned a lick because it happened in Pittsburgh on the opener. And I think again, since then, before Green Bay, 3 or 4 times I've seen it happen this season. Someone coming off the right edge, unblocked. The biggest one obviously was in Pittsburgh when TJ Watt, had the strip sack. And I think he had 2 strip sacks in that game. But it's one thing I love about Purdy. He's a mental giant. I said that since the offseason. And, Poise is one of those things, and it's one of the reasons why he's great is because things are going to hell around him and he can stay focused downfield. But then when things really go to hell and he needs to take care of himself, there's no.
I will say he is poised, but you could tell that he was a little flustered here and there in that game. Early on, it's people think like everybody's a robot and like the pressure of a game and the pressure of what the game means. I mean, it's.
I think it was the rain, honestly, and
you really think
the
it was
rust.
the rain?
Rain and rust. Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a huge factor early and late in the
Which
game.
is crazy because I kind of agree with you, and I've been more of the Purdy apologist. I thought he was a little uptight, but I did see a lot of throws that just looked a little off. They just looked, I don't know, and I'm like, put the glove. I said it. I was like, put the effing glove back on. I was just like, I don't understand this. I'm like, why is this still a thing? Like, why are we still talking about this? But hey, they won and they have a chance. They're not like a bunch of bums, They have they have a chance to win the championship game. They just got to play. I just think the key to the game, really, to me, is the defense.
Yeah, stop the run and pressure Goff.
The defense shows up and gives us the ability to get at least a turnover or two. Maybe 3 or 4 sacks. I think we win the game because I think our offense against that defense, especially that secondary, I think we have an advantage.
The one problem we have with our offense against their defense is is really good against the run. Like, I think top 5 against the run DVOA. And any team that stops the run well, less so with Purdy than with Jimmy. With Jimmy, if you could stop the run, it was a death sentence. But with Purdy, it's a big concern if they can stop the run still. Because all our stuff, like we said, Kyle wants to pass the ball, but we don't have a pass blocking O-line, Kyle. You built this O-line. Invest in the O-line if you want to do that.
Agreed.
Damn it.
You can't exactly. They have a run blocking line. They do not have a pass blocking line. You can't drop back 39 times with a line that is really only good at pulling, essentially, right? Pull left, pull right, pull left, pull right.
No bueno.
Option right, option left. Jet sweep right, jet sweep left. They gotta. There's some times in the draft that the Niners do really get to me that, like I've told you before, they draft like they won it already. You know what I mean? Like, throwaway pick. Let's draft a kicker.
Yeah, that's our only.
You kind of need a tackle though.
2023 that we expected to play.
Could have had Dwan Jones, and instead we draft a kicker that has, he's mentally weak. Call timeout. He's gonna miss a kick.
Could have Puka Nacua.
Could have had Puka Nacua
in the 5th. Several times before the 5th round.
Imagine that. Puka Nacua, I would almost say goodbye to. You could say goodbye.
A lot of us wanted Sam Laporta. We wanted to trade up for Sam Laporta.
A lot of us wanted. I tell my brother all the time. I said, see that tight end right there? Niner fans wanted him bad, and guess what? We drafted a running back instead. What round was Laporta drafted? The second?
Oh, no, we would have to move up to get him. He was like 36th overall. So
okay,
he was the first tight end taken in the draft.
A lot of Niners fans want him. I know,
round, kind of near where Debo was drafted.
I know Bashar had a draft, a couple of mock drafts last year, and I think 2 guys that were in it was Dwan Jones and Sam Laporta. Correct? Right?
Bashar definitely wanted DeJuan Jones. For sure. I know that. He's the most. When I say we wanted DeJuan Jones, he's the guy I think of first.
I could. Bash, were you watching the draft when they drafted Moody? Were you online watching it? Because I heard you told me you were pretty pissed off.
I'll tell you one we could have had too. No, a couple. We'll see this Sunday that we could have had. Penei Sewell went 6th overall, 3 picks after our buddy TL. I won't say his name. And Amon-Ra St. Brown went a good distance after the famous failed Trey Sermon. We moved up. We moved up past Amon-Ra St. Brown to get Trey Sermon. Could have had him instead. So just remember that when you see
Sermon,
the guys,
Ty Davis,
the best Lions players on offense. Could have been ours. easily.
So let's see. Ty Davis Price, Trey Sermon. Who was another running back that we missed on a couple of years ago? Like we drafted him and he never turned into anything. I always forget who his name
Joe
was.
Wilson.
Yeah, something. Joe. Was it Joe?
Wilson.
Yeah, he sucked.
Or something Wilson. If it wasn't Joe Wilson's an attorney, so maybe I got that one.
Come on, Bash, you know who it was. Who was the running back that we drafted?
The 4th round running back that Kyle had to have, and he never played it down.
Nothing.
Never played.
They drafted him. He didn't want to play.
Yeah.
He literally didn't he quit on his college team and then came back. Pretty much said he didn't want to play football, and then came back to play. Got drafted and
Joe
then
Williams.
Joe Williams.
Not Wilson,
okay,
not Wilson Williams.
How about he sucked from Utah? What about Glenn Coffey from back in the day?
That was before Kyle, I think.
Yeah. No offense to him. He wanted to do something religious with his life and go be a preacher, which is fine. I understand leaving football for that. Jeff Wilson Jr. I miss him. The thing with Jeff Wilson Jr. is he was always hurt, just like freaking what's his name on the Dolphins. They're always hurt. So Mostert. I love them to death, but they're always hurt. Say what you want about Christian McCaffrey this year, but he's been pretty reliable the last year and a half since we've had him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Although Mostert was going neck and neck with CMC this year in touchdowns. They both had over 20, which is crazy.
I miss the speed. I wouldn't. This is the one thing this 49er team doesn't have that I wish they had. And is one player or two with some elite speed, like you can do some, whatever, misdirection, and get a guy wide open down the
field for the guys. Yeah. For the yak guys underneath.
We still play a very condensed style of football. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the part about we wasted Danny Gray's career, I don't know, because Purdy's been hitting deep enough balls where Danny Gray could benefit. I always thought that, he was only a fit for our departed quarterback. I didn't think that Purdy would ever have a nice enough deep ball that we could take advantage. And you couldn't take full advantage of Danny Gray's speed with Purdy's arm, but he's hitting enough deep shots that, it could work out. I think it's on Danny Gray at this point.
A lot of it. I mean, that's what the talk is, that it's something to do with his,
he doesn't block.
Right.
And he only runs 9 routes.
If you can't run nothing more than a 9 route, you're not going to make it in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. But, we'll see. I mean, it's not all said and done. I think he's got at least one more year left on his contract. So maybe he turns it around.
It's amazing. Speaking of wide receiver, I was really, really down on Ronnie Bell. So are the Niners. So are the Niners. He lost a ton of confidence in the coaching staff, and I think the team in general lost a lot of confidence in him. And I did too. And that game where he was seen on the sideline and Kyle was like, "What are you doing?" And Debo's just looking at him like he wants to pierce, a hole through his skull. Like it was just like, and now nothing. Now you're seeing Chris Conley out there over him. That's all you need to know about that.
Doghouse.
49er Minded says,
lots of young guys get out of Kyle's doghouse. Not lots, but Ayuk did. So maybe Ronnie Bell can too.
I like Bell's hands, but he's not the playmaker. I know he looks so great in the preseason, right, Bash?
He had the most yak of any player in the NFL in preseason.
Oh my God.
But he also had
in the house. He says, apologies won't be long, chaps. It's nearly 1 a.m. across the pond. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're gonna do a stream one of these days. Me and Paul. Paul's about 5 hours ahead of me, so I could do a 3 in the afternoon stream, Paul. Just letting you know if you're still here. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's noon my time. They love that. They love 8 GMT, 9
I love
GMT.
listening to their stream. They have such the way that they it's so relaxing. I get relaxed. I love it. They're not like it's just good. If you guys have a chance, what is it? The UK. What is it? What's the name of? I forget the name of the channel.
49ers Faithful UK.
49ers Faithful UK.
49er, no S. 49er Faithful UK.
Definitely.
This is their flag right here.
That's awesome. Thank you again coming through, Paul. I appreciate it. I'll never forget your name, by the way, because that was my dad's middle name, and he was an Irishman. So, but yeah. Anything else you're thinking of, or things you want to talk about, or have we pretty much nailed everything on the head?
I think we're pretty good. My prediction is 31-24 Niners. I think we need to limit their run game, which is really good. Jahmyr Gibbs is almost as good as CMC, and David Montgomery is really good as a 1-2 punch, maybe the best backfield in the NFL. They have a great offensive line. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's an absolute stud. Laporta is an absolute stud. They got Reynolds, who's the carryover wide receiver coming from the Rams, who knew Goff there and was one of the first to help get their offense going here in Detroit. And then they got the young guy, Jameson Williams. So a lot of weapons. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough battle. Like I said, we got to pressure Goff. We got to stop the run. And we got to be able to run the ball ourselves. They have a great run defense. But if we can't, we do have a chance to run it on them or to throw it on them because their boundary corners are definitely a weakness. I don't think they want to see Debo, and I hope he can play.
If Debo
plays, I think we win with or without Debo. I just shave the points closer if we don't have Debo.
I think we could
and
really
maybe pull the totals down a little.
I think with Debo in this game, I think we could really open it up. It'll be a close game, and then we can kind of just if we can get a couple stops in this game and score. You know what I mean? Like,
from the guys I talked to, sounds like they're just like us. They like to play with the lead. They're not good if it's close or tied. Goff's not good in bad weather. It's really interesting. In fact, one of the guys was saying he was sure that if they won the toss, that they would take the ball. I'm like, really? It sounds like you guys will get the ball either way then, because Kyle loves to defer to get the ball in the second half. So sounds pretty likely that unless Kyle is aware of this and really wants our offense to start, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Lions start with the ball whether they win the toss or not.
Niners need to come out in this game on defense and make a stop early. Like, now I'm not talking 3 points. I'm talking 3 and out. I like to see a turnover or two again. I mean, Dre Greenlaw, how lucky were us that he played this past game? Yeah. Questionable. And then he makes 2. Say what you want about him and his anger issues and his late hits and stuff and his personal foul issues. Dre Greenlaw is a playmaker on defense. Straight
Plus
up.
He called it too, so I'm gonna mess around and get a second one, and he sure as ass did.
Demo, let's talk. I mean, can you stay a little bit more, or do you gotta go?
I got.
Let's talk about Diamador Lenore, man. Probably the best corner on the team over Charvarius Ward, and Charvarius has had a good season. Would you agree?
I don't know about for the season, but like for last offseason, Lenore was better last playoffs, and he was better on Saturday for sure. He had another one of those signature hits like he had against the Eagles, against the Packers. So yeah, he's locked down. He's hitting big. I mean, I think it's really Fred, Dre, and Diamador Lenore were the stars for us in that game. Ward was real good. He had that one pass break up in the end zone, but Lenore was definitely better.
What are we going to do with slot corner, man? Ambry Thomas was just abysmal in that game.
Well, that's Lenore playing slot and Ambry.
That's true. You're right. No, you're right. Like,
yeah, I mean, either way, if we could get a good boundary, we'd be fine. Or if we could get a good nickel and leave Lenore on the boundary, we'd be fine.
Why not putting in I'm just
hoping that it was rust, because he had rust and he had the hand surgery, and I'm just hoping that once his hand, I don't know if his hand will be better this week or not, but I think that played into it, because he looked worse than we saw him look all year, worse than he looked since very early on for us. So,
but Bashar makes a good point. The slipping in that game with all the rain, he said that slips and falls accounted for 75 passing yards. Yeah, true. They were saying Shanahan was pissed.
One of the
Yeah.
Packers guys I had on last week, or gal, I had a gal too. I forget who it was that said it, but they said that they thought that Matt LaFleur might be able to pick on Gibson because he knew him from being a division rival with the Bears. And he said, if anybody can make Gibson look bad, it's LaFleur. And one of the big slips for the TD was Gibson. And that was after I thought they had fixed their cleat issues. So I'm not sure how that happened or whatnot, but I remember thinking, gosh, I wish I had put that in my article because I didn't put that part in.
Yeah, because they had one that went up the sideline, and then there was the one in the
end zone.
It was almost like a wheel route or like whatever they call that.
And Gibson just slipped, and the guy was wide open to the right.
Wide open.
Yeah.
Well, the weather so far is supposed to be what, 71 and sunny, dry.
Yeah. It's not just Sunday. It's like rain today. It's supposed to be dry tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then rain again next Wednesday.
So the Niners essentially have no excuse to fall back on.
Not with weather. And so, I mean, it could change, but I think it's pretty unlikely that it'll change at this point. Because last week, remember, it was going back and forth, and each day I was like, oh, it's going to rain. Oh, it's not going to rain. And I remember at one point I was like, oh, it's clear, but there's rain on Friday and there's rain on Sunday. So if the Friday rain lingers or the Sunday rain comes early, it could rain. And sure enough, it did. So,
hello, Avatar saying, how you doing, man? He says, Jair Brown is fast, but takes too many bad angles. Agreed. That's kind of the thing with him, but
he does take bad angles.
What's his name wasn't playing any better than he was, so might as well put him in the game.
No, I think you put in the youngster because at least he's a big hitter and he, has more speed and anticipation. I hope we stick with Feliciano and go back to Jair Brown and no Isaiah Oliver, no matter what.
I just don't understand. Like, no Womack. I haven't seen him all year. Like, not even attempting to put him in at slot and leave Demo on the outside.
No, you can't do it in the playoffs.
I know.
You just got to hope the guys you got figure it out because clearly for a while there, our defense was playing pretty well. And part of it was, Armstead being out was hurting us. So we'll see. But yeah, definitely. I mean, Jair Brown was frustrating because he came in and remember a couple or 3 games were like, Hufanga who? And
yeah, we were both saying it.
Oopsie. Got that
Let's do real quick. You want to do a pay the bills segment for your channel?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for reminding me.
Yep.
So my channel is sponsored by the Travelstead Group. They do retail and hospitality logistics. They do new store openings, relocations, decommissions. From the first mile to the final mile and everywhere in between, Travelstead has you covered. Let them know how they can help you by air, ocean, or land. Nick and Henry are the go-to guys there. They have 100% US-based support. So, these are complex operations. So often the fine-tuning or sometimes there's full-on snafus. It's good to know when you pick up the phone, you'll talk to somebody not in a call center overseas who has no clue what you do. So check them out. Their description, the link to their website is in the description for this show. It's also in my Twitter and X bio, also on my YouTube About page. You can find it in Insta, Facebook, wherever you follow me. Click it, watch the video, tell them Ted sent you. Thanks in advance, everybody.
There you go. Avatar sitting in the comments asked if we talked about the Debo if he didn't play. Me and Ted both think that he's going to play. For me, and I think Ted, we both said it, that the Niners need to run the ball. The Niners need to establish a run in this game. Ted said it. The Niners don't have a pass blocking offensive line. They have a run blocking offensive line. He said, Ted said, kick Debo or kicked CMC into the slot. And run the ball a lot with Elijah Mitchell. I'm totally down with that. I think Elijah Mitchell is a little bigger than Christian McCaffrey. He's a little more of a power back. Doesn't have the ability to kind of make the big plays that Christian does, but why not? It's Debo. If he does play, how effective is he going to be? You know what I mean? I would measure his snaps. Nothing between. I would say 12 to 15 snaps at most. I wouldn't play him much more than that, especially if you have your eyes set on the Super Bowl and you don't want to re-injure him. The Niners need to get back to running the ball. Kyle Shanahan needs to stop dropping back with a quarterback in the rain and throwing 39 times. So that's kind of where we both were on that one.
Yeah, and the run game doesn't even have to be particularly effective either. As long as you make the defense honor the run, then play action will work off of that. And that's the way we need to be passing, is play action. And so we can't fall too far behind. So if the Lions do start with the ball and score a touchdown early on, better make sure we score one right back and answer, or at least score 3 points back to answer some score. Because you start getting down 2 scores, it's harder and harder to run that play action. The defense just doesn't buy it anymore.
Niners are a front running team, like we both said.
So Niners are the Lions, though, too. That's the funny thing. Like,
right.
There's so many parallels with our two teams, other than the fact that they have a much better offensive line.
Yeah, the Niners, for as good as they are as a roster, their offensive line, other than Trent Williams and Aaron Banks, they're not that great. So
Rendell's a good pass blocker, which is key. But yeah, he's not a good run
looks
blocker.
Like Kalia Davis might be back on Saturday. I'm like indifferent about Kalia Davis. When he has played this year, really haven't been overly impressed. I think
I'd rather have him than Sebastian Joseph Day, though.
Okay. I'd rather have Kalia Davis than Javon Kinlaw. Dude made a tackle on Saturday and was dancing around like a dumbass, and the Niners are down in the game, and I'm like, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
Pretty good game, didn't he?
I don't care. I don't like him. Okay. And it's nothing to do with his crap with Grant Cohen. I just don't like him personally. I think I don't know. It's a headache.
Like you said, you don't go off PFF, and PFF, I've said they're not trash, but they're probably not much better than that. But they did have him as one of our highest graded defender, if not the highest graded defender.
That's right. Dancing around like a dumbass.
He looked like he was going to hurt himself.
Then he fell.
Like, it's like, God, don't hurt yourself.
Don't hurt your knee again, you big dummy.
Please.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Me and Ted will see you next week. Hopefully we're talking Super Bowl preview or Super Bowl talk, post NFC Championship game, or we'll talk. Me and Ted will be, screaming and yelling about what pissed us off, and we'll be talking off season. So until next week, everybody stay safe and healthy. Take care of yourselves, and go Niners. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Go Niners.